Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast. I'm Joshua.
I'm Kim. Let's dive in. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I want to kick this off today because today, the day that this is being released is actually the last day of Josh being a certain age, which means that tomorrow is his birthday.
That's true.
And so I wanted to ask you, do you care if I say your age?
No.
Okay. So how was 34 and what was your big takeaway from being 34?
Well, 34 was a big year because I was married the whole year. And so that was a lot of life going on. So we got married pretty quickly before, a month before my birthday. And then and so that was 34, and I feel like it was good. I don't know that that was a big event that kind of shaped the whole year, but I don't know that there was anything else that was super stand out about it.
Do you feel like there was an overarching theme for 34? Or was it maybe just the kind of newlywed, the whole year of marriage?
At the moment, if I'm thinking about themes, there was a lot of healing that was taking place, and a lot of healing that was taking place within the first year of marriage. What's it look like for two people to come together with all their stuff and meld that together into something.
Yeah. I know sometimes that sounds like it would be the most glorious thing, but always you have two different perspectives coming together, and it's not always the easiest thing. So I like that answer.
Yeah, in general, it was a really, really good year. But there's always stuff you deal with throughout the year. I've also this year dealt with some more health things than I have in other years, which is interesting because that kind of is what we were going to talk about.
Kind of just slides right into the topic for today.
It does.
Which was not actually planned. Josh didn't know I was going to ask him about his birthday.
That's true. I didn't actually even think about the fact that this comes out the day before.
I did. Happy birthday, Josh.
Thank you.
Happy last day of 34.
I am excited for 35 because the 8 is a significant number in our marriage, and the gematria of 35 is 8. And so I think there's a lot that I feel hopeful about for that year.
That's awesome. I don't know if you know this about me. I love to celebrate the day before somebody's birthday. I love to just kind of look back and I don't know that I would ever say I throw a party for it, but look back and appreciate the year that's just passed.
Yeah.
And then kind of look forward to what's coming. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about our topic for today. This all started, I was texting Josh yesterday because I was driving home and this is just a very real episode. So I hope you guys are fine with this. I was driving home and I was getting those little wobbly lines in the side of my vision, like an ocular migraine that was coming on. And I had kind of a long commute. So I was really hoping that I could get home in time to take something that would keep it from progressing into a headache. And then I didn't get home in time. And then I had a massive headache and I had things to do. And I had a few minutes to myself. So I had turned on some healing frequency I have no way to form words. Healing frequency music. to try to help. And so I was texting Josh about it. Like, what's your experience with this? There's another method that I've used since I was a kid that it's not even a thing. It's not even a thing. I tried to Google it. It's not a thing, but it's always worked for me. What?
I'm sure it's a thing.
Maybe. I don't know. And so I just was trying to figure out, like, is there a practice to get better at this? Is there an ideal way to do that? Those kinds of things. But truth be told, we've kind of both had a little bit of like ailments and having to deal with some of that stuff. So we thought this might be a good day to talk about it.
Yeah. A day when neither of us are feeling optimal. Let's talk about healing modalities.
Yes. I mean, it might just empower. Listen, okay, July 1. July has in the past been a month of action for us.
Yeah.
So maybe it's great to be talking about this right now.
Yeah. So, like, the things that you messaged me about were like meditative healing or frequency healing. And so we were just talking about experiences with that. And my answer to you was that I've used both of them, and that my experience with them hasn't necessarily been like acute healing, like, oh my gosh, I broke my foot, let me sit and meditate and it'll heal. I'm sure people have had that experience. I have not had that experience.
Sure.
But what I have had with that type of healing is like a general increase in well-being, and also some, I guess, revelation on what is causing the issue.
Okay.
And so, like, for example, like I'm dealing with some inflammation in my body that's my body's having trouble processing. And I was sort of like sitting in the shower and meditating and just thinking about like letting it wash off of me, like letting it go away. And I was just like, man, there's something that's not clicking with my body and detoxing, where it's having trouble getting like actually getting stuff out. And so then I went to my actual doctor, and that was exactly what they found. That at a cellular level, my body was producing the antioxidants, but wasn't able to use them in the way that it was supposed to. And so, like, I just thought that was really interesting because it was like confirmation of what I had already felt. And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. That to me shows connection with my body, and like a general, I have found it to be very positive, because connection with my body has been something I've worked on for years to be able to be into. And so even though through just intention, I wasn't able to bring instant healing, it was able to bring revelation that was then backed up through a doctor of, this is what's going on, and here's a path to healing. And so I thought that was really significant. But you've had different experiences with meditative healing.
Well, I don't even know that I would call it meditative healing. This is why I worded it the way
healing.
This is why I worded it the way I did in that message, because I thought it was close enough to probably something that you have practiced more, which would be more along the lines of meditative healing. This is my weird way of, and I don't even know that I would call it healing. It's just like pain reduction. Like, it's intentional pain reduction. So not with an anti-inflammatory, not with medicinal pain reducer or reliever, whether on the natural or like pharmaceutical like way of things. So since I was a kid, and I don't know how I figured this out, but apparently I did. I've had
Desperation,
this,
probably.
I get probably, um, but if I would get a headache or I hurt something and it was like the kind of pain that just like wants to take all of your attention, you can't think about anything else.
Mm.
What I would start to do, and what I did when I was a kid, and I tried this yesterday, is I hyper focus on the pain. And I focus on it so much that it will go away.
Mm.
It's like, I'm like, okay, if the pain's there, let's feel it. And so I like really hyper focus on it. And it will like, I will feel it and then I will feel it go away. So it's almost like completely surrounding the pain with my attention, I guess, which is kind of opposite of what I've found on Google. Because I did Google it after I sent it to you, because I was like, this is probably the strangest question ever. And this is not something I talk to people about because it's just a thing that I found worked for me. And one time, actually, I had talked to my sister who had like ongoing issues with pain and stuff. And I had told her this is something that I've done. And she kind of, I think it was more of a like, that's fine for you, but not for me kind of thing, which is also fine. But it also made me not want to talk to anybody about it again.
That's funny.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I do think that there's something real about that though, because like I would call that a type of meditative healing or intention based healing, but
See
like
why I grouped it together in that message? I was like concentrated thought or meditative pain relief.
Because that is a thing. Like we talk all the time about creating with intention and focused intention and feeling how do you want to feel, what's it like, and so focusing on the pain in a way of like pain reduction is probably informing your body to send whatever blood cells or whatever it needs to that area to start working on it.
Yeah.
Like I've done like breath work healing where you are intentionally breathing into a certain part of your body to help inform it that that's what you want it to work on.
That's interesting.
And I think it works a lot better um, if you've already developed like relationship with your body. And because if not, then you're just telling a stranger to go do something for you.
That could be a whole series of episodes, Josh.
So I have a question about this because I was talking to somebody else yesterday um, about what I was going through, and they asked me the question, well, what would it be like to be optimally healthy? What would that feel like? And it was like a really good question because I didn't know the answer. Because most of the time when I think about healing, it is thinking about how I don't want to feel rather than thinking about
how you do want
this is how I would feel if I was optimally healthy. So like yeah, so I was telling him like, okay, like my foot's hurting, and he's like, okay, well, so instead of just saying I don't want my foot to hurt, what, like, sit down and think about what would it be like to have strong feet that are flexible or like whatever, like what would it feel like for your feet to be optimal? And I thought that was like a really good question because I didn't have the answer for it, and I've realized that most of the time in my intentions it's I don't want this. So it's like, okay, I don't want like, this is just a random made up example, but like if you're scared about something, saying I don't want to be scared is different than saying I want to feel confident or brave in this situation or safe in this situation. And that's a totally different neural pathway than saying you don't want something, because saying you don't want something is still putting the intention on the negative aspect of it.
It sounds like your example of the like hanging from a tree limb that you gave. I don't know when this was.
Maybe you should re-give it.
Could be years ago. Like if a kid is like climbing a tree and falls and is hanging by a branch, and the mom and dad come out and they can't reach him yet. And one parent says, "Don't fall." Then that kid is going to be more likely to focus on the fall part and fall. Whereas if the parent says, "Hold on," then the kid is more likely to be able to hold on longer. I'm probably not recapping that as well as you do.
I think that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
Yes. And I think I tend to agree, but for whatever reason, I don't know that my mind goes there.
Mine doesn't go there naturally, but
Right.
that's not, I think what I'm learning is that's not just, oh, I'm predisposed to think that way. Like that's actually a learned thing. Even if it's learned from birth, like even if you thought that way from birth, like there was still a genetic or biological reason that that's how you thought, and it can be changed. Everything that you think can be changed.
Okay, but how about this? What about when that would be my recommendation to someone else, but I cannot come to that conclusion for myself?
What do you mean?
What about that? Like, I would go, "I don't want to hurt." Whereas I would tell someone else, like, what does the life-giving thing feel? You know what I mean? Like, what is that blockage about? That's what I like, is that a disconnect from one's own body? And it's kind of not taken into the equation when you're advising someone else? Or what?
I mean,
like, what is that?
I think I would tell the person what I believe to be the optimal path. So telling them to focus on what they do want, but be optimal with, or be authentic with yourself of saying, but I know I'm not quite there. Like that is what I believe is the optimal way of handling the situation, but also be real with yourself that I don't feel that way right now.
Yeah.
I think both are important, because being authentic with yourself is extremely important in building trust and building relationship with yourself.
Right. Yeah. I think I was talking more about like coming up with the solution for yourself. Like when you are in the moment, when you have a foot that is sore, when you have a migraine, and then here are all these best practices that just completely don't come to mind. Like they're not on the table, even though you know it would be what you would suggest for someone else.
I think it's really hard to find to walk the optimal path when you're in a spiral of whether it's pain or whatever it is. Like maybe we're talking about like a behavioral pattern that you're tired of and you want to change, or you're talking about like a physical pain. Like if you are currently experiencing that in a real tangible way, I think it's a lot harder to make that change because your frequency is already lower. If your frequency is more in a neutral spot, then you can focus on what you want to see happen from it.
Okay. So I want to bring that to frequency healing.
Yeah.
Because I know of it. I've not practiced any of it. I told you yesterday, this was part of it. I was trying to keep like my focus thing that I do, but it would work. And then it's really hard to keep that level of focus.
Yeah.
But I'm also not practicing that regularly. I know that you're very good at practicing meditation regularly. My life does not look like that. And so when I try to hold it for a long time, it is not a well built muscle.
Yeah.
So then I tried frequency, and I found a frequency, I don't know, that was supposed to be a healing frequency. And I am no expert in this. And I know that we have listeners who are experts in this. And I would love to hear more about it, because I'm just admittedly, like, I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
But I thought I would try it. And then it made me nauseous, and it made it worse. And you told me maybe I didn't have the right frequency. And I think you might be right. But what if, okay, but I'm just going to throw all these things out here, and I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
So if not being in that optimal state lowers your frequency, then would it change the type of frequency that would help you get back to there versus being at a normal state and doing it to make smaller adjustments almost? I don't know if I'm saying that quite how I want to, but do you get my drift?
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that there is I do think that there is something to that. Like and there's different types of healing frequency healing methodologies. So you can use like a frequency generating machine, and you can, like, at least the one I have experience with, you put in it like, I'm dealing with a headache, and you and it starts emitting a frequency that is commonly known to neutralize that in your body. Then there's like what you were doing, which is frequency music on YouTube or Spotify or whatever. And what I have found with that is that can be a whole bucket of possibility, because there's like things to consider. So who created it? What frequency were they in when they created it? Because they're imprinting what they're dealing with on it. And are they just marking it as, oh, this is like 444 healing frequency, like, because they know that that's a clickbaity thing? And did they actually have the equipment to have it play actually at that frequency? And so with YouTube, I have found it to be really hit or miss. And so there's like there's people that I know personally who I trust more than others, and I will tend to look for something that they've done. And just because, like, there's, if it's, you just don't know what that person put into it.
Sure.
And it intentionally or not, like, you don't know. And so I've had such hit and miss success with actually like feeling something from a YouTube playlist, unless it's somebody that I'm familiar with. And even then, it may not be perfect, but it might be better than just a random one. But I've also at times had random ones that really resonated with me. And so I tend to not just
blindly search for it.
No, I do blindly search for it at times, but what I'll do is, like, I'll click through a bunch of them till I find one that feels good to listen to.
That's probably a good practice. I should probably try that instead.
If you are focused on, this is how I want to be feeling, and then you find a song that you feel good listening to, it's going to partner with raising your baseline frequency.
Yeah. I do want to do that, but I think even more, I want to I want to work that muscle of keeping the focus. I think this is a
Yeah.
good thing for me for July.
You remember that Netflix movie that I sent you? Like The Wonderful
Henry
Life
Sugar?
of Henry Sugar or something like that. Something
Yeah,
Henry
yeah, yeah,
Sugar.
yeah. With
Like,
Benedict Cumberbatch.
yeah, the entire point of that movie was, can you hold an intention or can you
Hmm.
hold focus?
Yeah.
Um, and I thought that that was so powerful because, especially in our day and age with so easy to access social media and short form content where it's a minute or less and you're clicking through it, or even just watching a movie or something where the color and scene's always changing. Like, we are teaching our brains, we're wiring our brains to be geared for short bursts of stuff. And I'm not saying that's totally horrible either, because there are definite benefits to that. Like, um, but there's also there's also drawbacks that you miss um, when you can't go back and forth.
Sure. Sure. No, I think that's good. Okay, well, I've got uh my action July. Not that we have to call it that. I have some intentions set for July, I think.
That's good. I think whether or not we call it that or not, or we talk specifically about that, like, um, that's a it'll be a great thing. Um, we've used it in years past as a reset of, this is how I want the rest of my year to be geared, and I think we can do that now too.
Yeah. Kind of refocus. Um, I have one more that I'm implementing. I've started implementing it a little bit sooner. You want to know about it?
Sure,
Has nothing to do with frequency healing.
that's okay.
I've been in like just making some intentional time to look up throughout the day. I have found myself, I'm trying to find I don't know where I put my phone. I don't know, but like I'm looking down so much, or like I'm in my computer and I'm looking down.
Yeah.
And even when I am sleeping, I have a pillow behind my head. And so like my head is kind of pointed down. And I just, this is going to sound wild, but I just kind of felt like a little bit of like, not suffocation, but kind of, it felt a little suffocating
Mm,
all of a sudden. And I'm like, I think my neck needs to stretch back out. And I think it could really do me some good. Cause you know what? When I'm looking up, I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not looking at a screen. I'm not looking at the television. I am like seriously taking some time to break from everything else, and it's focusing on something else, and it's
yeah.
completely changing my posture.
Um, my wife Bree has been doing a book club um, with some of her clients on somatic healing methodologies.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the practices in that book is to sit outside and look at the horizon.
Hmm.
Because if you sit and you look out and you expand your vision, especially if you are, like you said, constantly narrowing your vision, it can actually re-inform your body that um, that you're safe and that you're comfortable, um, because you're um, especially as you do that, you actually begin to become aware of what's around you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that does a lot to inform your body on safety, on how it feels. And so um, if you can just start implementing that, like, that could be a really simple thing. Just 5 minutes, go sit somewhere where you can see a horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it doesn't even have to be like, oh, in the middle of nowhere. Like, you can go to a park, maybe go out to your street and look out, like just somewhere where it's like you can see more than 10 feet, um, and look at the horizon and focus on, like, what do you feel like when you look at the horizon? Does it feel scary to feel like the vastness of that? or does it feel empowering? Yeah, just paying attention to how your body feels in different situations is really key. I think that's really key in self-healing, is being really connected with your body and knowing, like being able to know, okay, I feel really good when I do this. Now, why is that? Like, then start going to the next level down, like start prying into that. Like, you might feel really good and safe, focus down at your phone or your book or whatever it is, your computer. But maybe that's not actually optimal, and that's not how you want to function. And so you can just begin to recognize and play with that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Do you have any intentions or action or anything you have in mind that you're wanting to kind of focus on?
Well, before I started not feeling great at the moment this week, I had been way more intentional with actually going to the gym, because I know I feel better when I do that. And so, like, actually setting up a goal and a plan, and just watching myself actually outwork it, like, that's really powerful, to be like, this is what I want to do, and then watch yourself do it.
Yeah.
And so I want to get back to that, because, like, I was at this point, like, this particular illness is this week has been challenging, because before it, I was at a point where I was actually feeling pretty good with where I was physically, feeling pretty good with where I was spiritually, even with just like self-talk and things. Like, a big thing for me has been self-talk. What do I think about myself? What do I believe about myself? Self-deprecating humor has been a big part of my life. And like, I was at a point where I was finding myself like walk by a mirror and be like, oh, like, I like myself. And that was like a big thing for me. And so, like, I want to get back to focusing on that, once my body has processed what it needs to process.
It's good. Really good. Okay. Well, enjoy your last day of 34, Josh.
Thank you.
And cheers to 35, I suppose.
Thank you.
Right.
All right.
Listeners, if you are frequency knowledge base, please reach out.
Yeah, this is a topic we both love. We would love to hear from our listeners.
So true. Okay. See you next time.
See you.
Hey, thanks for listening. Keep up with us along this journey by liking, subscribing, and becoming a member through YouTube.
Members get exclusive access to bonus content with our guests, deeper dives into topics, and a look into other projects. We're glad to have you here. See you next time.